In Body and Balance this morning, we're talking about narcolepsy. We know it as people falling asleep at weird times, but this rare sleep disorder also affects kids. Health specialist Leah Sarich joining us now. How challenging it must be for the little guys.
It really is, of course, yeah. So let's just walk through this. First of all, it's still really quite rare in children. They only have about 15 cases in the whole of southern Alberta. So it's still pretty rare. So it is a neurological or brain disorder. And what happens basically, it causes these children to be extremely sleepy during the day. And then ironically, they have a lot of trouble sleeping during the night.
Oh, that's frustrating.
I know, it's very, very frustrating. So I spoke with pediatric neurologist Dr. Alice Ho. She explains.
It affects the ability to regulate sleep and wakefulness. So these children have great difficulty staying awake in regular situations. And basically the brain is almost constantly wanting to shut off and go to sleep. And there's also difficulty in terms of the type of sleep. So quite often they don't just go, when we usually go to sleep, we first go into something called non-REM sleep, which is non-dream sleep. And then later on in the night, we then go into dream sleep, whereas they actually tend to very quickly go into dream sleep.
Which is highly unusual.
Yeah.
So you can imagine they put their head down and like 2 minutes later they're into dream sleep.
And the deep sleep.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
not just, you know, a
yeah,
little.
not just falling asleep. They're in like dream sleep within a few minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very, very unusual. So there's two kinds of narcolepsy. There is general narcolepsy, but then there's also narcolepsy with cataplexy.
Oh.
What's cataplexy?
Yeah.
Cataplexy, a sudden loss of muscle tone. Sudden loss of muscle tone with a strong emotion. So Dr. Ho says what happens with these kids, and it's usually a happy emotion. So you'll get these kids at school, all of a sudden their friends will tell a joke, they're laughing, and boom, they're on the ground.
They faint.
They faint.
Wow.
They just lose total muscle control, so they're just on the ground.
Okay.
So you can imagine how odd this is
Yeah.
among their classmates, and you can imagine how, you know, weird they would feel about this for sure. So it's very, very hard on these kids. You can also imagine too that it must be so hard to learn and concentrate.
Yeah, how do you
and
write a
stay
test
focused.
when you're,
Exactly.
you know?
You feel constantly exhausted all of the time. So you can imagine how challenging this is. Now, the one thing that's really good about the Children's Hospital is that every child that is diagnosed with narcolepsy is referred right away to see a psychologist. So this is helpful. And the psychologist, she's so wonderful. I met her. And, you know, she really helps them cope, not only the child, but their family. And she also helps them to negotiate the treatment.
Often, by the time these kids are diagnosed, they've been labeled unmotivated, bored, you know, tired, lazy, lethargic, and it's simply not true because it's uncontrollable. They have no control over their sleepiness. So coming to terms with that and being able to accept that this is a chronic condition that they now have, and that all that they can do, there is no cure, that all they can do is control it, is to help the family and the child do exactly that.
So one of the big things when it comes to controlling it, like Shelley's talking about, is taking 2 naps a day.
Okay.
So if you can imagine in a child's lifetime, 2 naps a day, one of those naps is going to have to happen during school.
Of course it will, yeah.
So that also is quite unusual. So it's just a 20-minute nap, but what Shelley really recommends is that these children take that nap right before lunch.
Okay.
And she also recommends that they don't take it during lunch so that they're not removed from the social situations that children really need.
Of course, yeah, they need to interact, right?
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. So she helps the family sort of negotiate these tricky things, and with the schools, and the schools have to get on board because they have to be woken up by someone, because otherwise they'll just sleep, right?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really tricky. She also helps them learn about their bodies and understand, specifically for the children who have cataplexy, she will help them know sort of the triggers and the warning signs so they know what to do
when
if
they're
that's
going to lose
happen.
that muscle control.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Are there medical treatments at all?
There are.
Oh, okay.
There are medical treatments. So a lot of these kids will end up on stimulants to help them stay awake during the day. There are also numerous other medications that can help with cataplexy and some of the other symptoms that they experience as well. So there is a medical treatment as well, but a lot of it's going to be these lifestyle changes as well.
Yeah, no kidding. The 2 naps and that type of thing.
Exactly, exactly.
All right. All this is going to be on your blog,
Exactly.
right?
A lot more on my blog. More too about what causes narcolepsy and what we know about that.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Leah.
You
Body
bet.
and Balance, narcolepsy in kids. I didn't even know.
There you go. That's what we're here for.